for $20. Oh, thank you. Imagine that you could have all of his life experiences and all his wisdom by buying his book. Now, the problem with buying a book, of course, is first you have to buy it, then you have to get it, then you have to read it, and then you have to do what it says in the book, right? It's the same with all great books, right? All great teaching stuff. So, hey, thanks for being on here this morning. I'm going to take our time here this morning, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what do we do, how do we do it, and who do we do it to, right? And kind of why do we do it as well. So let me jump into some of this stuff here this morning, and we're going to talk about data collection and discovery. We have each week we have a discovery call. I love the word discovery because it steps in our process, right? We're going to pique interest, curiosity. We hope that we bring them to a discovery call. Let the discovery call do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Let the videos do a lot of the explaining for you, if you can. Now, we can't always do that, and folks don't always listen to or watch the video. Now, I usually quiz them a little bit too to see if they actually watched it. Hey, did you watch the video? Yeah. What did you like best about the video? They start doing the humming. I know they probably didn't watch it, right? So and look, and I understand that we're all, our focus and our attention is being drawn away all in 10 different directions at the same time. So the ideal steps in the process are to, number one, get them to a discovery video, or even better yet, live discovery call, and then follow up with the data collection. In there, if you recall, there was a call to action to get their complementary analysis. And Nathan, I know that there's been some folks that have said afterwards, hey, I want to see how this thing works and works for me before I could ever recommend it to anybody else. Doesn't that make sense? So if I could, what I'd like to suggest, I like to make suggestions to people. What I'd like to suggest is that you go through the process and see what we do. Now you're under no obligation, there's no cost to do that, but see the process. And if you're happy with the process, I would think that you would want to recommend or refer others to it as well, right? Does that make sense? So that's where we are now. So someone has come through, been exposed somewhat to our business. We hope through a discovery call, we hope they have some basis for, red line, green line, that whole thing. And if they don't, we can bring them up to speed quickly by doing a screen share and giving them a little bit of the basis. So what I want to do today is I want to talk about how do we open the appointment and break the ice, right? Now we know that prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. Get that to the sticky side of your brain, because if you walked into the doctor's office and without taking your temperature, your blood pressure, you're looking at your medical records, all that stuff, and he just said, here's what I got for you, take these pills and go home, you would think he was an absolute quack, right? Because he doesn't know anything about you, doesn't know anything about your problems and so on. So prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. Now I would, if you have your notebooks, please write this in your notebooks, right? I assume everyone's got their notebooks. Write this down. Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. Now read it, repeat it, say it, make it part of your DNA, part of the sticky side of your brain. That should just come out on autopilot. Because wouldn't you agree that prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, right? So the first agenda, the first appointment, I follow an agenda. And on that agenda, I make sure that folks have a copy of the agenda. Now, professionals use checklists and professionals use agendas. Imagine getting on an airline with, pilots have checklists, right? They may have 20 years in the cockpit and have flown that plane a million times, but they would never think of taking off without using that checklist. Why? Because the price is too high if they screw up, right? Someone forgot to turn on this switch or that switch or who knows what, check to see if we had enough fuel, something major can fall through the cracks. So when we use an agenda with folks, not only is that easier for us to follow, easy for us to, we don't have to memorize as much stuff because we have it on the agenda and we have our checklist, but it also gives our prospective clients, our prospective agents, a track to run on, a system to follow so that they know what they're doing, what we're doing, and it brings organization to chaos. Now, I think you would agree with me that most people's finances are chaos. They don't think they are, right? They deposit money in their checking account, they write out checks. That's it. That's about the extent of it. Maybe they review a little bit on what but that never really goes any deeper than a simple checking account in and out kind of thing. Maybe they're putting a little bit of money in the savings, but it's a hodgepodge, right? It's generally a hodgepodge of stuff. So I want to go through the agenda, and if I'm with them in person, I'll hand them a copy of the agenda, and I'll say, Mr. Jones, I follow an agenda. I hope that's okay. I'd like to give you a copy of it, and if you could just review that agenda, see if that's okay with you. If you'd like to make any changes to it, feel free to do so. We can certainly do that, right? Never had anybody make any changes to the agenda, right? So here's the purpose of us being here together. First is I wanted to overview our company, what we believe in, tell you what we're excited about. We're not going to ask you to make any major decisions. Just sit back, relax. This is just a discovery meeting. And if you engage us, you hire us, if you ask us to do the analysis, then we'll gather some data, do some homework, and prepare our analysis with recommendations. Does that sound fair enough? Good place to start? Great. I'll tell you a little bit about our background, who I am, what I do, and now this is your part of the story. This is sort of the in-between time here, your story. I first started working in the financial business coming from accounting and tax, and I realized that when I was studying taxes, that if I could show people how to save money on their taxes and put it in their own pocket, I could make a living doing that. And along the way, I saw what a major impact I had on people's lives, and it changed me forever. And, I didn't get into the business because I wanted to save the world. I wanted to make money. But along the way, I realized what a tremendous impact, whether it was delivering checks to people at their great hour of need, showing them, I had one woman in tears come up to me and say, if it wasn't for you, I would have saved nothing. All of those, I could give you a bunch of those stories, but that's the reason why I'm in this business. I love what I do, and I love the impact that I have on people. And I'm going to share with you a couple of guidelines that I follow when I work with my clients. Is number one, we don't make any decisions for you. We just provide the advice, okay? So all decisions are made for you. We give you education, information as a basis for making decisions. Fair enough? Good place to start. You hear how many times I repeat that? Now, in a normal interview, I don't usually repeat that often, but I'm kind of doing it here for training. Good enough? Good place to start. Fair enough? I want to get some agreement with them and get some interaction going with them. Everything that we do is an ongoing process. It's just not a one-hit wonder and head for the hills. We want to do at least an annual review to make sure that you're still on track and update you for any changes that happen in your life. Number three, everything we discuss is strictly confidential. No one will ever find out your financial information unless you choose to tell them. And then number four is what we do is flexible and comprehensive. Now, you may have just one or two things that you need to take care of today, but then again, it's ongoing. So know that we do other things besides maybe the one thing that we're talking about here today. My guidelines, of course, is we don't make those decisions. My recommendations, the first four I already covered, right? The recommendations, they must make sense. I wouldn't expect you to approve any of our recommendations if they didn't meet at least these three things. They must make sense. They must help you reach your goals. They must be something that you like, something that you're comfortable with, and something that's affordable. Does that sound reasonable to you? Good place to start. So the two rules that I follow is rule number one is you're the boss, right? I provide the advice, you make the decisions. And rule number two is you can never hurt my feelings. Well, maybe a little bit. And they usually chuckle when I say that. And what I mean by that is I want your honest feedback on everything that we do, because there's many different ways to go about this. There's the art and science to our business. And if you're not completely 100% comfortable with something, I hope you feel free enough to tell me that, right? Now, why do I do that? I do that because some people are too polite to say no. There may be something that we've recommended to them that they're not comfortable with. And what they will do instead is they'll give you smoke screens and they'll say, well, let me think about it. Let me talk to my rabbi. Let me, whatever, and I'll get back to you kind of thing. Whereas if we went back and said, hey, look, remember, my two rules that I follow is, you're the boss, and number two, you can't hurt my feelings. So what is it? Let's put it on the table. Yeah, I know you said you want to think about it, but remember those two rules, can't hurt my feelings. Is it something that you like? Is it something that's affordable? Is it something that helps you reach your goals? Yeah, then how did I miss? What did I miss here? Help me out here, right? Does that make sense? So two ways that I get paid. Number one is if you think that what we do adds value and helps people out financially, of course, you be the judge of that I ask that you include us in your referral network. And number two, when we implement the products, you don't pay us directly, the companies pay us, and that's for implementation. So now we're into the fact finder, and I'm going to go through a checklist, because with the checklist, I'll show you what that looks like in a minute, but I want you to focus on some of these questions and think about, there's open-end questions and then there's closed-end questions, right? There are probing questions, there are feelings questions, and then of course there's matter of fact questions. We're going to be asking both sets of those questions because we want to get the facts, but we also want to get their feelings and their emotions about what it is that they're doing right, what are they doing wrong, where could they improve, what are their frustrations, what are their pain points, what are they most interested in. Generally speaking, what I want to do for them is, I might put together an elaborate plan, a 16-step plan. And they say to me, the most important thing for me is this. And I'm thinking, that's not the most important thing. But what I do is I get them what they want first, and then later on, over time, I can get them what they need, right? My first goal and objective is to make a new friend. My next, of course, is to make them a client and a happy, satisfied customer and client, right? We do that, and I've said this on many occasions, we can nicely, friendly, beat them up forever until they relent once they're a client, right? If we don't make them a client, if we can't get them to the church, we can't baptize them, right? So my first goal is to make them a client, however it happens to be. Right, I've had clients where they've come to me and they've absolutely insisted that they have a SEP. Even though I talked to them over and over again about the advantages of IUL and using that instead, they said, look, bottom line is I want a SEP. Great. So now I got them as a client. Now I can beat them up forever about why they should be doing IUL. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but at least I picked them up as a client. So question number one, are you happy with the way you're managing your money? What do you think most people are going to say? When we ask these questions, we are disturbing them. We're getting them to think about things that they don't usually think about or express to anyone openly, is what is their pain, right? Are you currently working with a financial professional? Are you currently working with a financial professional currently? Or maybe I could reword that a little bit better. Have you worked with a financial advisor in the past? If so, what was your experience? What did you like? What did you not like? You're going to find that most people have not worked with a financial advisor. Amazing as it is, but most people the vast majority of folks out there do not have a financial advisor. They may have somebody that sold them insurance. They may have somebody that sold them a mutual fund, but those folks generally kind of dry up, blow away, disappear, head for the hills. Who knows what happened to them? What do you like about your current plan, what you're doing now? What's the favorite part of your current plan? Do you have a plan? Do you have a written plan? Do you have written goals? Most people don't. Is there anything that you would change about your current financial situation? Anything that anything that anything that you do not want. Oh, is there anything you don't want in your financial plan? They may come back to you and say, you know what? I hate fill in the blank. I hate whole life insurance. I hate term life insurance. I hate annuities. Great. I want to know that right up front whenever I can. I hate Wall Street. I hate whatever, I love this or I love that, right? What was your experience with your last account rep? Now, this is very, very important. And I say that. This is very, very important. Now, will you be making all of these decisions on your own, or will you be making them together with your husband, wife, partner? You make those decisions together. And wait until they respond. Anybody who's honest will say, yeah, my wife is, my spouse, my husband, whatever, is a very important, we always talk, great. So it's really important to me that we don't leave anyone out. So if you have a CPA, if you have a rabbi, if you have a spouse or a partner, I want to make sure that we include them in all of our future meetings if they're going to be helping in making the decisions. Is that fair enough? Good place to start? Okay, so this way you don't get to the end and they go, well, I got to run it past my attorney, my CPA, whatever. Okay, well, didn't we say in the beginning that, that if they were involved in these, we'd always come back to that. And then lastly, I like MOLO, right? What would you like more of and less of? When it comes to your finances, what would you like more of and less of? I know more money, I get that, right? But what would you do with it? What's important to you about it, okay? So some of the language that you should be picking up on getting on the discovery calls on a regular basis, and that becomes drilled into your head, of course, over time, is because we say it over and over again, is we show people innovative ways to make, manage, and save money. Now, when I say make, manage, and save money, which one of those three things are most important to you? Making, managing, or saving? Now we're starting to dig in a little bit deeper. We take an educational approach because we believe that when folks are armed with the facts and solid information, most people will make the best decisions that are in their own best interest. And we hope we can share these innovative concepts with you. Now, you'll make this language your own and something that you're comfortable with, right? These concepts in many cases change the way people think about money and finance. We follow 6 steps to financial security. The goal is financial freedom, financial independence, right? When work is optional and retirement's affordable. And I ask people all the time, I say, if I had more money, I would have a better financial plan. Or is it, if I had a better financial plan, I would have more money? Money can be freedom or slavery. It's your choice. And by the way, we don't separate people from their money. There are really basically 6 things you can do with your money. Number 1, pay taxes. Number 2, pay debts. Number 3, lose it. Number 4, spend it. Number 5, invest it. Number 6, give it away. If we eliminate the first 3, then you can do 100% with the next 3, right? Doesn't that make sense? Eliminate all the ways that people fail financially and they will succeed. And then, of course, one of my favorite lines is, nobody ever, I don't think that you could argue that nobody ever went broke saving money, okay? So now we have the checklist. And the checklist, now these things, by the way, this language is stuff that you can start picking up and adapting for your style, your presentation. The checklist is really simple. The checklist is a lot of yes and no type stuff, right? So we had some probing questions. Now we've got some yes and no type questions. So pulling out the checklist and going through this, by the time we get to the bottom of it, and they're like, no, 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 man, maybe I need more help than I thought I needed. maybe there are some things that this person can show me that would be useful and beneficial. We've gotten away from the whole sales mode, right? That whole conflict and stress and pressure and all that other stuff, right? So let's go through it. Number one, are you happy with the progress you've made for your financial goals this year? Are you happy with the amount of money that you saved, yes or no, last year? Are you happy with the amount of money that you've been able to save, period, yes or no? Have there any changes in your personal situation? Do you anticipate any changes in the future? Are you concerned about the future of your job or your career? Have you reviewed your homeowner's life insurance, auto insurance, health insurance? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Has it been recently? How long ago was it? Have you looked at your deductibles? Have you looked at your policies? Yes or no, right? Do you have life insurance? Do you have health insurance? Do you have disability, cancer, chronic, long-term care, critical insurance? Yes or no? Have you reviewed your will, estate plan? Do you have a healthcare proxy, durable power of attorney, living wills? If you have children, do you have minor trust? Do you have guardians for those children? Do you keep your papers and important papers in a safe, secure place? Have you calculated your performance and risk on your investments? Are you satisfied with that performance? But, and I like to even maybe drill a little bit deeper and say, expressed as a rate of return, what has your performance been? What percentage have you been getting over the last 3, 6, 9 months, 3 years, etc.? Are you happy with the way that you're managing debt? Can you please explain to me how you are managing your debt? Do you have debt? Do you know your debt-free date? When will you be completely free of debt slavery? When would you like to learn some simple ways to pay off debt? Have you ordered your free copies of your credit report? And then reducing your taxes. Do you have a plan to minimize your taxes? Do you have 401ks, IRAs, and so on? And then lastly, you guys probably have seen this before. I hand this to them and let them fill this out. I'm interested in part-time referrals. What's the best way to find out with what someone is interested in? You just ask them, right? Are you interested in any of the following? Just please fill this out. And then lastly, what is the most important thing to you? When it comes to your money and your finance, many people tell me that their family is their most important thing. Would you agree with that statement? Yes. I write this stuff down. On my second appointment, I go back with my Ruby Vic. Ruby Vic is recommend, understand, because your concerns, verify, isolate, cushion. That's a thing we've talked about on Rise and Shine. And I'll go back and I'll say, I want to recap our first meeting and make sure that what we said, I got it. What you said, I got it right. What you told me was the most important thing to you is your family. Is that correct? Oh yeah, absolutely. And what you also told me was this, and this. Is that correct? Yes. I want them to know that I've been listening to them. With all that in mind, Mr. Jones, after you've told me that, that's what I did when I did my analysis. I think you're going to be really happy with you're going to be really excited about what we're going to show you here today, because it does this, and this, and that's what you had asked for. By the way, on that checklist, it does give us a time for a return appointment, right? So you can do the one-hit wonders, go out there and do the presentation and write up the sale. Usually doesn't happen. It's usually in a 2, sometimes a 3 appointment type deal. Now, these appointments also can be done on Zoom, online. We're doing many, many of those as well. But the first appointment really is discovery. So now that I've, and the discovery is, by the way, you probably have seen, I don't know where it went. Here we go. The data collection sheet, okay? So we're gonna ask the questions that are on the checklist. We're gonna use the agenda, and then we're gonna go through this. Now, this is pretty basic stuff, and I wanna point your attention. First, when we first jump into this, I don't jump right into what's your date of birth, what is your social security, none of that stuff, because that usually scares folks off a little bit. I do want to tell them that, of course, you realize that this is personal financial planning. So we must ask you some personal questions, right? We're not going to ask you for your account number or your bank numbers or anything like that. We just need to know about you as a person and what you're doing in your personal finances. Fair enough, good place to start. Hey, so this is where I want to begin right here. So I'll come back to this later. Current concerns. Tell me, what are the most important things that what keeps you up at night when it comes to money and finance? What, and then dig a little bit deeper, controlling spending, whatever it happens to be. Are there anything on here that maybe doesn't fit that you're concerned about? And I would write them down. Now I'd also just ask a question. Tell me a little bit about that. What makes you feel this way and that way and so on. And then the rest of the questions really are in data, right? Factual type stuff. Instead of feelings, these are more like the factual type stuff. Your name, your phone number, your email, your date of birth, that sort of stuff. What sort of real estate do you have? What are your debts? What are your debt situation? How much do you owe? And so on. But here, this one right here, I want to point out, how much money can you comfortably save each week? This is before we start jumping into anything, right? Now, why do I say each week? Each week is important because you'd be amazed that folks would say, well, I could probably save comfortably $75 to $100 a week. But if you ask them, could you save $350 or $400 a month? No, that's too expensive, but I can save $75 to $100 a week. Okay, now we don't just take that for what they say, right? We want to drill down a little bit, but that's a good place for us to get started, isn't it? So if someone says, well, hey, I could easily save, $50 a week. Could you, comfortably? Yeah, without question, at least $50 a week. Okay, now we got $200 a month to work with. Now we can find more money in other ways and start driving that into their plan and into their program. The rest of this stuff, do the best you can. You can mess it up. Don't worry, we'll come in and clean it up, right? What are your debts? Well, how much do you owe? What's the minimum? Now we're going to use that to run the debt analysis. We're going to run the Money Max. We're going to run the You First financial program. And we're also going to run the Debt Free for Life. And we're going to put them side by side and give folks a choice and an option. Now, when it comes to this, what are you, and by the way, one of the reasons why the Money Max, the You First financial program is so powerful is it is an incredible, it's worth paying the money for that program just for the budgeting alone. Okay, so just the amount of money that slips through the cracks, but now you can get control over it by using that software package. And then we're going to go through and look at a little bit of ways to find some money, reduce, postpone funding your IRA, transfer balances, use your tax refund, all of that stuff. We're going to go through and look at that, and then look at the dollar amounts possible that we can find in the program. So how are we doing on time so far? Okay, pretty good on time. So any questions on any of that stuff? I know I firebombed you with information. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. But you get all wet and nothing goes down your throat, kind of thing. But so do you guys have any questions on that? Okay.
No questions.
All right, good deal. Now I say that you're all going to have your own style. You're going to all have your own approaches. And I would say that using the fact finder and the checklist is a great way to dig out and find more money. Now, so we could run out and go and sell a term life policy to someone and make $800 or whatever. But what if we missed their $400,000 sitting in their annuity or a CD, or they had some junky old life insurance, or the list goes on and on, where we missed all the big things if we're not getting the fact finders and getting them done. Okay, so we cool so far? Is that like information overload?
That was a lot of good stuff.
Okay, cool. Now,
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, definitely great.
cool. Dominic, the Dominator.
Yes, it's yeah, it's things that that you taught me 8 years ago. So this is what I use when we're dealing with clients. So
Excellent.
it works, guys. It collects all the data that we need, and then we can make recommendations for people. So some of the people that I've been going through, that I've been training, some like A-Rod and Gerald and Carlos are all people that some of them, they haven't started to save nothing at all. Okay, so
Yeah.
So the first recommendation is, of course, our flagship product, but what we also do is send them the email to fill this out just to see what else they're doing financially. But yeah, this is all awesome stuff. And for new people on the call, it's all things that work because, Brian's been using it and I've been using it for a very long time. And I'm the type of guy that I don't like to bring new things to the table. If something's working, just go with it. That's all it is.
Awesome, Dominic. And I know that you are great at running and doing that and getting the, when Dominic and I do three-way calls, the first thing I say to the folks that are thinking about joining us is, hey, by the way, and I sincerely mean this, you are fortunate and lucky to be working with Dominic. Dominic gets results. And if you want to get results, meaning getting paid, I would suggest having a coach and a mentor that gets results. So thank you, Dominic. Now, the other thing that I will say is don't get overwhelmed by all the stuff that I put up on the Champions Coaching. Absorb as much of it as you can. It's almost like taking vitamins, right? There's only so many vitamins that your body will absorb at one time. But that doesn't mean that you stop taking them, right? So keep going back and exposing yourself to it, even if you feel like it's a little bit overwhelming. Yes.
I have a question about the program with the debt. If somebody asks them, like, how does that work with the debt program? If somebody's new, what would be a good answer for that?
Okay, good question. Anybody want to answer that?
I can take a shot at that.
Sure, go ahead, Nick.
The debt program works kind of like a GPS. It takes everything in that's coming into you, takes a look at all your debts, all your interests, and like a GPS helps you get to zero as quick as possible.
Awesome. Nathan, anything you want to? Good answer. Nathan, anything you want to add to that? Sure, go ahead, Des.
So let's say, can you turn it down? So I've been talking to somebody and she is doing her financial analysis and she wanted time to do it. So, and I've been talking to her almost daily, to make sure that if there's any questions she has, I can help her through. And then I told her that we would have a follow-up conversation to go over it. And she is interested in the debt program because she wants to pay off her mortgage quickly. So I plug all our information into the debt program. But when I do another analysis within for the 7702, just so that she has all the information, or would it be run through one program?
Well, a piece of what she's doing is the debt program. That's part of it, right? So yeah, we're gonna run the debt analysis, and I also want to make sure that we're the ones that take control over the fact finder too, right? So,
Right.
in other words, if we hand somebody something to fill it out, whether it's their list, the fact finder, we can almost be assured that they're not going to do it. But the debt program is part of the program. So in addition to the rest of the program, the rest of the plan, that would be one piece of it. And that's the one piece that she was most interested in. So yes, we would do all of the program, probably beginning with what they were most interested in, what hooked their interest to begin with. And then in making the recommendations, I would say, I've identified some holes, if I could, some holes that need to be filled in your plan and your program. You don't have protection living benefits. You don't have life insurance. You don't have savings. You don't have you don't have all these things. So therefore, I would recommend that you put this in place to fill those holes because they're really important, kind of thing. So part of the recommendation would be that. Good. So going back to what Ellen said, I like Nick's answer better than my answer. My answer usually is, it works great, but it doesn't matter how it works if it doesn't work for you, right? Now that might not be enough of an answer for somebody to move forward. They might go, listen, wise guy, tell me how the thing works, and that kind of thing. Nathan, did you have an answer? How does a debt program work, Nathan?
Yeah, Nick answered that pretty good. Something similar to that. We take all your data, we plug it into the system, and it spits out a nice financial GPS. It also comes with coaching, and that's pretty much how I present it as well.
Okay, so give me the nitty gritty details. What's the magic in this program?
Well, imagine you had 100 accountants working for you at all times, right? Able to calculate all aspects of your finances and tell you, hey, if you pay things in this certain way, you will pay down your debts faster, right? It gives you a debt-free date, right? A destination, and it is able to move with you, recalculate if you veer off, and it's able to get you back on course, or project for you, hey, what happens if I make this additional purchase that wasn't in my plan, right? And then it also puts it in your face to say, you begin to say, I don't think I need this extra whatever it is, because you see the impact that it may or may not have on your
Sure.
debt-free date.
Sure. And I would simply say that high-level overview is we use banking principles that most people have no idea, right? What do banks do? They take in your money, they lend it out. They're really good at this stuff. Would you agree? Right? They own all the real estate, the fanciest buildings, all that stuff, right? So what is it the banks do? They do things like spread. They do things like arbitrage. They do things like leverage. They do things like float. Right? Now, the average consumer doesn't know anything about float, leverage, arbitrage, spread. Those are just some of the concepts that we're able to bring to the table that the banks use, now individuals can use. Now, by the way, if you want to get into the real nitty-gritty on how it works, like the real granular detail, I would suggest you go to deeperdive2.com. That's the Vimeo video channel that we have set up. And there is a bunch of videos in there. Right now, in the last debt program we showed, that's exactly what we did, because we went back to it, and so if they're really interested enough to learn more about it, they do go back there and they do watch it, and they do have some questions that come out of it. I want to, yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I finish your thought.
Well, the Deeper Dive 2 is kind of needs to be updated for the new company changes and names and stuff like that. But the principles and the ideas still work, and we're still making sales doing that. Now, again, we're sort of in the beginning stages of training the trainers. We haven't knocked off the training wheels for folks yet, but we're getting you prepared for knocking off the training wheels down the road. So you shouldn't be doing this necessarily on your own. just yet, in many cases. Nick?
Yeah, what I was going to say, I think I learned this from Mr. Larry, if I'm not mistaken, but he said, I think it was him that said, don't let your invitation become a presentation. And I found that that's very true. When the less you can give them, unless you're already into an appointment, but if you're just contacting somebody and you're just talking to them, the best thing you can do is say as little as possible. I like to send them a video. I have, there's some videos that are out there that are pretty good for the debt program, and they give a 5-minute to a 10-minute little video on how it works that can answer their questions without you getting into a back and forth with them. Because if they feel they have enough information, they're not going to move forward. So the best thing to do is just pique their interest, get them plugged into something, and set up a time to get back with them.
So how much does a program cost?
Are you asking me?
How much does the debt program cost?
Well, that just depends on your situation. It's all based on your specific situation. It's based on your interest that's saved. It's based on the debts that you have.
Give me a ballpark. Is it be more than $5?
It'd be more than $5. It'd be less than 10,000. I mean, I
Okay.
can't give you a ballpark because it's specific to you. And it's
Fair
based
enough.
on that. If I tried to give you a price, it wouldn't be fair because it may be more or less depending on your specific situation. I'd rather you get the exact price for your program.
I like to say something along the lines of the price that we will find money that you're already spending, or the cost of it will be given back in the amount of interest that we will save you. Something along. Those are really good. Now, the reason that I ask some of these questions, and I'm not trying to be tough or difficult, is I want the new folks that are on the call to realize that you don't have to answer those questions, that the trainers will answer those questions with you, for you. And here's the challenge. I always say, don't answer any of the questions until you can answer all of the questions, because match up with a trainer, get working with a trainer that's going to walk you through every step of the program. Now, when it comes to the cost of the program, again, if they're going to beat me up on it, I would say, listen, if I were to save you, I don't know, $150,000 over the next 8 years, how much do you think would be fair to pay me for that?
Yeah, well,
10%?
Yeah, I mean,
Would you pay if I walked into your house with a basket full of money, 15 grand in a bag, and said, "Pay me 10%"? Would you pay me 10% of that? It's nowhere near that much for the cost of the program. So in different ways to skin the cat. And by the way, I would suggest that you become a part-time referral agent. You do 3 or 4 referrals and your program is just about paid for. So it could be free. So somewhere between free and, someone said to me the other day, they said, how many years have you been in the business? And I said, 300,000 years I've been in the business. So good stuff. So I wanted to just, in the minute or so that we had left, was just encourage you to go through the stuff that's on the Champions coaching page and pick up as much of it as you can. If you're spending 30, 40 minutes a day in there, great. Here's something that we did on designing a verbal business card for the networking, and some ideas and comments on that. How to increase your taglines. A great video on, do I really need long-term care? Mr. Larry, are you on there, buddy? By the way, if you're a husband and wife couple, good deal. I don't know if you picked up on that video yet, but on that video, the guy on the video says, listen, if you're a husband and wife and you're 65 years old, do you know that you have a 91% chance of one of you needing long-term care? Isn't that amazing? Would you bet against a 91% chance? I mean, You know, that's just crazy stuff. 91% chance if you both made it there. Okay, but this is pertinent to our class and our training here today. And again, I don't want folks to feel overwhelmed by this information. I want you to first expose yourself to it and then become comfortable with it. But here's the flight plan to follow, right? We want to confirm all appointments. And this is a checklist that you could use before you go out there. Have a track to run on. We want to warm up the appointments, what I call the amenities. So, you know, how you been doing, what's been going on, you know, all that stuff. You know, develop rapport with folks. You can tell when they're ready to go. When they're ready to go, they turn around and they go, okay, so what do you got for me? You know, that's time to cut the amenities and jump into what it is you're doing. You want to talk about yourself, your story, your background, so they're comfortable with that. You want to talk a little bit about how money works. You want to collect their data. We talked about that just now. Then we want to review it. We want to get a commitment for referrals on the way out the door. You know, Nick, as I said earlier in my presentation, I get paid in two ways. Number one is referral, and the other is strategic implementation. And you know, referrals are really the lifeblood of my business. I would really appreciate it, and I'd be honored to be included in your referral network. So if you think of anyone that I could talk to, that I could help, I would be honored to talk to them about what I do, okay? I'll review the data, get commitments, and we'll talk more about going back on the second appointment, the preparing the literature, reconfirming the appointment, and so on. So just go through and familiarize yourself with those steps that are in there. It's not as overwhelming or as daunting a task as you might think. It really, after a while, it becomes just simple and easy to do. Every presentation, in my opinion, is a recruiting presentation. The focus is on the client, not on commissions. You must have you must get to their side of the table. We're going to talk about these things on the Rise and Shine call this week. With that, I'm going to wrap up our call and our recording. And the next step in our Saturday is to